We have goods, we have services, we have a mix of the two as well. So I really encourage you guys to be as open as possible with these questions. If you have something that you want to ask, especially an entrepreneur about their struggles, these are the people that are really going to be able to give you some really candid answers. So before we get started, I'm going to pass these around. These are the same that we did last week, just so we can keep track of who all is in attendance. And I'll even give you a fancy Community Futures pen that I probably won't get either of back at the end, but that's okay.
Part of the marketing budget, right? That session's got to be coming up.
So I think what we'll do is we're going to get started with introductions. First off, I think is probably the most important thing. So what we'll do is we'll just kind of go through and we'll start with Sarah, and we're just going to talk a little bit about, going to give us some general information, what her business is, how long she's been an entrepreneur, and a little bit about herself.
Great. Hi, my name is Sarah Jorgensen. My husband and I own Lethbridge Tactical Supply. 4 years ago, I was sitting exactly where you guys were sitting. So it's amazing to see things on the other side. I sweat a little bit. When I come here, I tell Morley, I'm like talking about the competition and stuff, I just start to get nervous already just thinking about it. So a little bit of background about myself. I did everything. I was in the legal business, I was in the funeral business, I was in the sales business, I was in the real estate business. So I did everything and wasn't happy with anything. And I'm sure most of you can kind of have that little bug. You've done it, just something was missing. So in September 2011, we had an idea. And that's all it was. My husband is a police officer. We're very close to the first responder community, and all of a sudden we just had an idea that we need to have a store for these guys here in Lethbridge. Something where they can feel welcome, where they can get what they need for their business or for their duties, and so that's what we did. We had the idea in September 2011, we were open by January 2012. It was like that. So it was fast and furious. Community Futures got us there, period. I had no idea. I came to one of these things and I'm like, what's a business plan? Seriously, my doors were open and I had no idea what a business plan was. So it was fast and furious, very, very quickly. The store itself, we sell, if you look at, for example, a police officer, everything but his gun, we'll carry. We've branched a lot more in the recent years to do safety and survival, hunters, hikers, construction, that kind of stuff. Really high quality, really good customer service, and I know you're going to hear that a lot. Good customer service. No, our customers are our life. That's what we do. So yeah, that's a little bit about us. We are runner-up in the Chinook Entrepreneur Challenge in 2012. I like to say we were first runner-up in Lethbridge because the winner wasn't from Lethbridge, so I claim Lethbridge that year. But I'm very open. Morley knows I'm really shy. I hate talking about my business. I love talking about my business. I could talk here for an hour. So by all means, come and talk to me after if you have any questions. After these fine folks have spoken, please let me know.
All right, we're also joined by Maureen.
Hi everybody, my name's Maureen. I'm the Ladybug Arborist. I have a tree care company. I am kind of in that stream where you start off and you were a legal secretary and then you were something else and eventually Lord only knows how you got to be into the green industry. But here I am and loving every minute of it. Entrepreneurship, I've always been a good independent worker, which maybe made it. Jobs I took, I developed, I had a creative spark, and so I was able to take really uninteresting jobs and make them really enjoyable for me, which benefited my employer, which is a bonus. But being self-employed was sort of a natural fit for me. I had an opportunity, I've worked for other people, I've had lots of experience managing organizations that I had worked for, so I had lots of business background. But it's not the same as being your own boss. And so having the opportunity to do the Executor Serve program and then coming through the Entrepreneur Challenge really gave me the foundation that I needed to be self-employed on a full-time and successful level. And so I'm really grateful for what I've learned. I came into the service industry with a slight advantage in that I already had an established reputation and skills to offer, so I had familiarity with customers or prospective customers. very engaged in the community in a voluntary capacity, doing presentations at schools, supporting horticultural organizations, being involved in community garden projects and things like that. So I had lots of sort of exposure, which made it a lot easier to transition than a person who was just starting on the fly, suddenly opening, you've got a sign in front of your door. I already had sort of an in to start building my business on. What I didn't have is the confidence I didn't realize the potential revenue stream that my business was going to provide and the rapid level at which I would be going from sort of wondering if someone was going to phone seriously to, oh my goodness, I need to get subcontractors, and now I have to have staff, I'm buying more equipment, and managing that all in a way that isn't making me kind of somewhat loopy. So I love what I do, and that's really sort of the key to, I think, the success is you have to really be passionate about whatever it is, the direction you're taking your business idea. Because if you don't love it, you're not going to like it for very long. So anyways, that's what I've got to start with, and we'll carry on, and then we can start talking about our processes and take some questions.
Perfect. My name is Shane Roost. I'm a chartered accountant, born and raised in Lethbridge. I graduated from the U of L in 95-96. Articled after that. I got my CA around 2000. Articled a little bit with a few firms around with KPMG, Myers, Norris, Penny, and then went up through the management side of things and decided to start my own business as well. Exactly what these two ladies had said, it's all about if you love what you do a great job at it, and it just kind of perpetuates, right? I find a ton of my time right now is kind of looking at a trusted advisor role, and I think Paul had talked a little bit about that. I find a lot of people really good at their trade, their business, and good at what they do. We try and do it all, and eventually you got to realize there's a spot where you got to kind of go into different areas, right? So part of the financial management, the growth, all those kind of things. Talk to somebody that you identify with, trust, and let the accounting side kind of unfold with business-minded people or accounting-type people, right? That lets you focus on the stuff you're good at. Boy, I've got all kinds of industries, from ag to construction to event planning to all different kinds of clients. Our little firm, me and another lady are partners. So we talk a little bit about structures, those kind of things, a little bit of lawyers, and had a few questions earlier on about different kinds of formats, businesses, different things like that. We can explore that. I love drawing pictures. I'm a spatial guy. Something to learn that way, right? Gets me excited. But yeah, I have a few businesses as well, construction, my accounting practice, and commercial rental stuff that allows me to adapt and kind of understand each industry. What I don't know, I try and find out, because you guys are your experts in your own businesses, right? Yeah.
So I'll start things off with a question. So what challenges, I'll start with Sarah, what challenges did you face when you first started your business?
All of them. Literally, when I first started, when I look back now, I mean, 4 years later, I had no idea what business. I had never taken business administration. I was coming off of an office administration certificate at the college. What I learned from my business, I learned from all the other industries I worked in, and I kind of put it together. So I had a passion, and I just had to learn the rest. So I didn't know anything about vendors, about purchasing, brokering, all of these things. The biggest thing that I learned was where to find information. That was the biggest thing I learned, because you can find out anything you need, you just need to know who to ask. And that was the biggest thing for me, is knowing where to find the information I needed to get to my next step.
We have a question from Adobe Connect. Did any of you ever think, I'm over my head, I can't do this? And how did you get past those thoughts?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I think you're fortunate to have a supportive partner, and I am it. I am the business. I have people that I trust to give me advice and support and feedback. But the decisions I'm making are all my own, and then you live with the consequences of those choices and the benefits as well, of course. But yeah, when you were faced with you're the labor, you're the marketing person, you're the bookkeeper, you're the everything, the maintenance mechanic. Definitely, I mean, 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. in my industry, and phoning and billing and all that sort of stuff, it does get really overwhelming. There's no question about it. And when I got a sort of a point where my growth was so much faster and larger than I had ever possibly had managed, I was fortunate as winner of the Chinook Challenge to have gotten the Action Coach certificate. And I had spent sessions with Greg to help me, I guess, look at the business from a fresh set of eyes. But when I got into that crisis mode, I knew I could go back, and we had that established relationship. And just a month of sort of calming from a mentor was what all I needed was to take the panic out and put perspective back in and prioritize the things that I needed to do. And things come up all the time that you can't possibly anticipate. Someone was talking about insurance for subcontractors. Well, I have a very thorough subcontractor agreement that outlines terms of payment, that they have to provide me a certificate of insurance and their own workers' compensation. And if they don't, I won't hire them because it puts too much potential risk on me. Then, as far as their code of conduct when they're on the job sites, expectations about non-compete. So if they're on a job site and a client's doing something, or a client asks a question, then they'll say, well, I'll have to get Maureen to follow up on that. They don't take the initiative to act on my behalf. And so those are all things that you have to really lay out in front, up front and in writing. And the same thing would apply with employees. I've recently discovered that if you don't have a clear employee contract, you can get yourself into some miscommunications that can cause some potential issues. And the other thing too is I didn't take the time enough on my own to read through and thoroughly understand the Employment Standards Act. And so being a nice employer, being, so you're not the friend, you've got to be the boss and all these things, and having a clear understanding of your rights and obligations, both with safety issues. I mean, Jim Flannery's here, he is my expert, so he is helping me develop a safety policy. We did workers' women's training to bring me up to date because I hadn't done it in a number of years, to bring me in compliance with my industry. So knowing what's required of your industry, knowing the occupational health and safety standards and all the rules and regulations are really important, and something you can't afford to not really understand as the owner. And so that would be a good piece of advice I think I could pass on, is really knowing your industry and the government regulations that are associated, making sure that you make your remittances on time for anything. And it saves you a whole lot less trouble down the road. There's the accountant who knows about remittances. Your turn.
Just to add to that, the biggest advice I can give you is you will panic. You will have panic attacks. You're going to stress out.
Yeah.
We're 4 years in and doing fantastic, and I still have days. Oh my gosh, we had a really slow day at the store. We're doomed. It happens, and to expect that that's going to happen is you have to understand that that's going to happen, and it happens to everybody. And it's being prepared for that, and like you said, having your insurances and having those backups and having a support system and taking time for yourself too, is really, really important.
I got another question for you guys. So maybe we'll go to Shane for this one. So what mistakes have you made as an entrepreneur, and how did you learn from them?
It's been a lot, because there's every mistake you make is a learning experience, right? It's how you deal with it next time. And mistakes I've made, boy.
Oh, admit to one.
To choose from, right?
Oh, okay.
I guess the biggest mistake that I've kind of learned to overcome is just go with your gut. That's what I really go back to. And that sounds kind of cliche-ish, and I get that. But often if you have like Paul had said with an insurance fellow, that you want to try and grow your business, insure everybody, but you've just got a gut that says, you know what, this guy just isn't for me, or this client, or this subcontractor, employee, all that stuff. You start to kind of go with your gut and just say, ooh, there's two ways to learn, the easy way and the hard way. After you learn the hard way a few times, you'll start to figure it out, right? The easy way is a little bit easier, for sure. Yeah.
I know I made a big mistake. Is anybody else doing a business where you're going to deal with the inventory? Watch your inventory. Morley can probably account to this. If you've stored up your inventory because you're like, man, there, I'm done, all of a sudden, guess what happens to your cash flow? Now all of a sudden you can't turn your lights on. Because I know it'll sell eventually, but watch your inventory levels. There's a few times where I had a vendor offer me discounts. Discounts are awesome from your vendors if you can get them. But by taking a discount and stocking up my inventory, I'm purchasing stuff that I really don't know if that's what I'm going to need 6 months from now. So the discount that I gained was gone with the old inventory that's sitting in my back room. So, you know, being careful with your inventory is not a bad thing. And also watching your balance sheets. I am always, at all times since day one in my business, have made sure that I've at least, bare minimum, been even. Now, that may not work for everybody, but for me, I always keep an eye on that, and I always go back to my balance sheets and to my cash flow projections, to my actual projections, to what happened last year, to see what's happening with my cash flow. Because, like I said, if you don't have that money in the bank to turn your lights on, it doesn't matter how much money you're going to get 6 months from now.
Go ahead. So, are these businesses that you're in now, were these all your first ventures, or have you tried and failed in previous businesses?
It's my first.
My first independent.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now that being said, I have years ago in my personal life, I claimed bankruptcy in my personal life. Now for me, that was probably the worst part. But let me tell you, that has certainly made me very careful, and it's made me a better business person now. But yeah, this is my first business.
Yeah, mine as well. Yeah.
Another question. So when you began first, how did you manage the funding for the business versus what you were needing monthly for your personal costs that you probably were doing from your jobs?
I'm very lucky that I have a spouse that's working, so that helped me personally. Not everyone has that. We went to a bank. They looked at us, laughed, and said, no, we're not giving you any money. We went to Community Futures, and they funded us with the research that we'd done. They took a chance on us. We budgeted. We went through monthly cash flows, and I went on a bare minimum. You know, what's my break even every month? This is what I know I need to break even. This is what I need to sell every month to turn my lights on, to pay my bills, to pay the insurance. And then you have to decide anything over and above that, where is that going to go? Do you want to sort? And we did a 50-50. So anything over and above what I made that month, half of it went to the bank and half of it went to inventory. And we very slowly, I look at pictures, actually I've got them on my Facebook page. When we first opened, go and look at them. I had nothing in my store. I don't know how, but every month we brought a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. And now we've got $200,000 of inventory in our store. So it's just a little bit at a time, but it's talking to the people who know their numbers and who can help you know how much you need to borrow and what you should be spending that on.
And I guess speaking from a service industry perspective, I don't have inventory. Although there's things that I would buy, but I buy them from other companies when I need plants to install, new tree for a customer or whatever, soil, whatever. So I had my basic tools and equipment, which I already owned. I had a vehicle I already owned. And then I had cash to help with some startup marketing and some of these other expenses, extra things that I needed to do. I was able to operate and still have been able to operate as a home-based, but I'm reaching the point where I definitely need to be looking to grow up and move out. But, you know, not having that overhead of a storefront really was a huge opportunity for me to advance in not having those cash outlays. But you're talking about finances, exactly. My bookkeeping has been on a, you know, I wouldn't say daily, but I mean, I'm completely posted all of my entries on a weekly basis. I do reconciliations every month. I look at my profit and loss statements. I know where my good months are, my low months are. And the other thing I've done, which has proven to be super beneficial, is to bank my GST and my income tax every month, so that I don't have a panic attack. If I'm totally weather dependent.
Did that the first year.
So, you know, I'm trying to find $10,000 to pay government taxes in February or whatever.
What do you mean I
I've
have to
already
pay?
got a reserve. So when I'm doing my monthly statements, I figure out what my gross sales were, what my GST remittance should be, and my taxes payable would be, and I set them aside. Then it's an emergency fund if I have something come up, like a truck breakdown or whatever. I have you know, some money in reserve, but I know that's really not what it's for. It's for Revenue Canada, basically. And that takes a lot of the anxiety out of it. But yeah, keeping track of the bookkeeping on a continuous basis, projecting. I could go, like the first year I was in, I got my business license in October of 2012. I had a fairly good, you know, kind of a quiet startup because people really didn't know. I had to do a lot of work to let people know I was independent and not working for somebody else without competing with my previous, you know, employers, because that would be stealing customers. I just let them know that I'm independent, and if they were interested in the future. And a lot of customers actually were really pleased to hear I was on my own and, you know, followed me. And I got new clients and word of mouth and referrals and everything else, and it just grew from there. But no, I kind of lost my train of thought there. But yeah, keeping track of your financial health is really important. Oh, I was going to say, and because I was at the bottom of my deep freeze the first full winter, because we went for like 5 or 6 weeks. I had only 4 billable days, and so that's pretty stressful when you're the only income in your household. And I had, you know, a lot of things going on. I had had to buy a new home during that time frame, so I had to go for financing. So I was really conscientious about where I spent my money and how I spent my money. And you're right, you know, when you got a few extra dollars, you bought an extra tool, or you bought something that would help benefit and build the business, or you know, I didn't have a website until this year. You know, that sounds crazy in this day and age with internet and everything else, but I just didn't. I had a good business foundation, but when my competition is all plastered on the internet, I basically had to get into that marketplace. And so, you know, I did do that leap of faith, and I've got something online. It may not be exactly what I want, but it's there, and I can build upon that. So, you know, if things come, you know, you have to sort of decide where your best marketing budget. And I have a business coach who works with me on a regular basis, so I know that I don't know everything. I have advisors in areas of expertise that I don't have, and they're worth every penny to me to invest in their support and advice. Like a really good accountant is just a lifesaver, you know, that sort of thing, and helping you make decisions, and you know, so you're not as at risk. I mean, you still are you putting yourself out there, but having those key people in your life are really important. People that you trust to advise you when you need it. So.
I've got a question from Adobe Connect, and this is one that in my office I hear all the time. So, and I'm sure that everybody in here is very interested in this, and I'd love to get your guys' perspective on it. And it's how do you decide how much you're going to pay yourself as the owner?
What you need to at the beginning. You have to pay yourself. If you're not paying yourself, you are not running a business. Mm-hmm. You're running a charity. And that's not the way it goes. Obviously, during the first year, at least for myself, my first year of business, I was the only person. I did the accounting, I did the inventory, I worked Monday to Saturday, I worked every day, I did everything. You have to pay yourself, and then eventually you pay yourself more.
Yeah.
But yeah, the first year I paid myself what I needed to, and no more. We didn't go on extravagant vacations just because I had a big contract come in. All of my money in my first year, other than what I needed to pay myself, went back into my business, and that's how your business grows. But eventually you are going to have to pay yourself a livable wage, or you might as well not be doing what you're doing.
Absolutely true. And in my case, so, you know, I went for a long period of time where I had no health care benefits. I just got benefit coverage this year and starting in January. And so over the course of time, I've done things that I hadn't ordinarily been able to afford, chiropractic care. In a heavy, physically demanding job like mine, if I don't take care of my body, I am not going to be doing this for a lot longer. Dental. I mean, I went to the dentist. I haven't been there. 16 cavities. About $4,500 worth of dental work I have ahead of me. So, you know, I'm now have the opportunity. When you don't spend money on yourself, all of a sudden it's there in your face. And I mean, now this is how I'm not necessarily adding to my wage, but I'm doing things that are going to benefit me personally that I would not have done without the extra funds from the business. So, you know, keeping those things in mind, I don't need a fancy car. I got a little house. I mean, hardly home actually, and my dog doesn't know who his owner is half the time. But you know, these are the things where the opportunity, the business has given me the opportunity to actually, my income has probably almost, my net income for the business is more than double what I ever have made in any other job that I've worked in. And so now I have the luxury to make decisions about how to spend that money. And sometimes it's a little self-indulgent. Like I have a pretty awesome stash of fabric for my quilting addiction. You know, but I mean, there's also things that I'm, you know, putting them into things that I need, which is looking after my physical health. And that's really important for me to not let that go. I mean, I'm planning a vacation. I took 2 weeks off at Christmas this year, first time ever in about 12 years that I've taken a holiday that wasn't about work, going to a professional development event or something like that. I'm going on a 4 or 5 day vacation with my daughter at the end of the month. And so it's cool. I mean, it's cool that I can feel confident enough to be able to close the office for 4 or 5 days, not feel like I'm going to be in, you know, at the food bank when I get back, and be able to still have people who I can employ, subcontractors, to still generate income for me while I'm getting respite, which is really important to your mental health and your physical health. So
I'm gonna just draw a couple pictures here.
oh, good. The pen artwork's coming.
Here's something that you guys can work on just like everybody can. And it's pretty common knowledge. I think it's quite, kind of fundamental, but I'm surprised when people don't quite understand what I'm talking about. This will look a lot like an income statement. So basically what I do with clients, ins, money coming in. Outs, money going out. Okay, personally, you can start that right now. It kind of leads into the budget idea. So your ins are your revenue in, your income statement. Okay, so that's going to be one of the reports you'll do in your business plan. And your outs will be your expenses. You have all this kind of stuff personally as well. Wow. Ins can be from jobs, ins can be allowances, ins can be benefits, ins can be different things into your bank. Your outs will be all the expenses. It goes up and down. It's relative to whoever is doing this exercise. So if you have kids, you have different expenses than single people who have different expenses. I'm surprised when I asked this question. I had a client come into my office and say, can I retire? I said, I got $3 million, can I retire? Okay, everybody would say, yeah, absolutely, right? I asked him the question, how much do you need every month to live? He couldn't answer that. If you don't know that number, I can't answer the question. If you need $30,000 a month, $3 million won't get you very far. If you can live on $2,500 a month, you're fine, right? So you start training yourself at school to budget those kind of things, to know how much you need every month to live. And then we're talking about break-even analysis, exactly what the ladies are talking about here. When you're above that, when your ins are bigger than your outs, you'll accumulate cash. When it's the other way, you better have a line of credit. Welcome to business, right?
And make sure you calculate all the little things. Sometimes the little things, and this is one of the mistakes that we were talking about, is I'm calculating all my big things and not realizing $30 plus $30 plus $30 plus $30 equals oops. So every little thing. Yeah, it's really important that you don't forget all the little things because they do sometimes add up and they can put you in the wrong side.
And that's the cushion you're talking about, right? So these ins and outs, revenues minus expenses, head over to a balance sheet or a net worth when it first shows through.
So when the accountants were here the other day, they said most companies lose money in their first 2 years. So I better have a line of credit if I'm losing money in my first 2 years? Or should I just say, oh, to hell with it?
Depends
I'm not
on,
doing this.
I'll be honest, did we lose money? Morley, did we lose money? I think the only reason we lost money is because it went into inventory. So now how do you want to look at that? Now as an accountant?
asset.
It's an asset,
Yeah.
right?
Future.
My balance sheet has never been the other way around. I have always been above, always, from day one. So I think if someone says expect to lose money your first year, I don't like that. I'll be honest with you, personally, I don't like that. Somebody may agree with me. I want to be at least here. Whether it's because my assets, so I know that if what hits the fan, I can sell my inventory at cost and pay my debts. So I am never upside down, and that's my own personal state of mind. I don't use, the only credit I have is my business loan. Everything else is paid for. And that's personally, but that, I'm not.
I was gonna
So,
say, that's a personal philosophy of mine too,
Yeah.
is I don't carry debt. My contractors give me, in our service agreement, it says that you will submit your invoice by the Friday of the service week, and I will ensure that you will have that paid the same day that it's delivered. So I never am, as far as cash flow is concerned, I never carry an accounts payable, and I try to be really diligent about my accounts receivable. And it took quite a battle, but I only ever had one really bad debt, and the client, a farm client, owed me almost $3,000, and I finally collected at Christmas. It took me 9 months of an effort, but that was a lot of money, and it was worth every penny of my time. And the final thing that got that money was I engaged a bookkeeper to phone on my behalf as an independent person from a separate phone number, said, excuse me, but you owe this much money. And then they were able to move forward with them to get that money collected, short of going to small claims court. I mean, I've had things happen like, I know a customer was dissatisfied with their service, and you do your best to fix what their misconception of what they thought they were getting or whatever, and because you always want to make people happy. But I don't, I can't say that I've ever had a big accounts receivable balance that if you're on top of your reconciliations in your month, you're doing your month end, you can see on a regular basis who's outstanding more than 30 days. Some clients, like I've got commercial customers, are net 30. So I send my bill, then it gets into their accounting process, and sometimes I don't get that. But I know up front if a client, particularly a long time one, is going every year to Florida from January to March or whatever, but that's the only time I can do their elm tree. So I know up front, because I have established relationship with them, that I'm not going to see payment until they return, unless we make provision now with the joyous, wondrous e-transfer system. I can send them a bill, and they can check their email, and they can wire me the money in minutes. And I love e-transfer. So yeah, I mean, it's really, it comes down to being on top of everything, and not using your credit as being a cash company as best you can. And that saves a lot of surprises.
My question is, what percentage of your budget do you spend on marketing, and how important has it been to you?
Beware of the marketing scams. I shouldn't say that. I'm going for my Bachelor of Marketing, so I probably shouldn't say that. Marketing, It really depends on your business, okay? It depends on your competition. How much competition do you have? How much you want to spend on marketing? When we first started, I didn't spend a dime. It was word of mouth. Now that started a slower progression, right? The best advice I can give you is when you're looking at any kind of marketing, whether it's TV, newspaper, print, radio, any of that kind of stuff, remember they're a business as well, okay? So they are going to tell you that their form of marketing is the best for your business.
Yeah.
They are all going to tell you that, and one of them's right. It's kind of up to you guys to figure out which one is that right and how much you're going to spend on marketing. I've made some terrible marketing decisions and spent a fortune on a trade show where 10 people showed up. It's happened. Do your research, and it's a test and measure. It is a test and measure. That's the only way that you're going to know which marketing form is best for your business. The best form of marketing, in my personal opinion, is word of mouth. And your credibility as a business will go crazy. Social media, best form, and it's free.
I'm just doing a marketing budget and projection. And I think at the moment, we're between 3 and 5% of our projected gross sales. And it's a matter of exactly knowing where to allocate the funds where they're going to have the most benefit. So something I'm going to be doing this year, which is new, is I'm getting more onto the social media and I'm doing video. My stuff is very well represented in video, hands-on, little pruning lesson or something, you know, and people like to learn crap. So there you go. Oh, this is where you water your tree so it doesn't die. You know, stuff that I'm telling them all the time when I go for site visits. People love to get stuff for free, and little free advice tips is, you know, so I'm investing money into doing a bunch of like how-to components that can be just a couple minutes or whatever. Little presentations that can be used as infomercials or educational pieces or anything like that. So that's going to take up a good portion of my budget this year. And I blog, I do other things that, like you say, that are free. And then knowing your best customers. So everyone would think, oh, a tree care company, we'll see at the Home and Garden Show. Never. I've done that, and it is the biggest waste of my time ever. I go to the Fall Seniors Show. And I get tons of clients from that event because I stand out as an industry, and it's the customer who, a lot of my clients are seniors, single women who like the social aspect. They have somebody that they can trust to do a good job, come in the yard and show respect. And so I know that that's a very successful use of my time, for example. And I've done the Women in Business show, and a tree care company amongst the makeup ladies is not the right fit. People that are coming there to try on jewelry and find outfits are not looking for a tree guy.
It's a guess and test. Go to the show first and see what you think of it. One of the best things I've done, again, knowing who your customer is huge. We do a lot of donation style advertising. Okay, so the police hockey tournament comes up. I give them all of my old stock, and they love it. So the stuff that's sitting on my shelf that's been there for 2 years, that's worth money, but not to me, and I can't sell it, but to give it away to somebody, and then they know who I am. Best form of marketing dollars that you can spend. It gets rid of your old inventory or produces a service. If you want to say, you know what, whatever your service is, I will give you this, then it's great way to spread it.
And that's all tax deductible, right? If you give stuff.
Well, it's a write-off,
Yeah.
right? You write off the loss of sale as a marketing.
And you gotta watch that
Write-offs.
first year when I went to my accountant and said, I owe what? I thought this was all a write-off. Somebody told me once that your business, you're gonna get a huge check at the end of the year because you own your own business now. Not true.
Okay, good to know.
Not true. Because
Lots of good advisors, yeah.
Yes.
Off the top.
Because,
advisors,
the things when you say, oh, I'm going to donate all this money because I get it all back. No, you don't. You get a percentage back.
Yeah.
So be careful with that.
And then back to the marketing side, I've heard that before where they have to say certain percentages, or a lot of people will say that. Every industry is different. The biggest thing is if you spend money, count how much it gets you. Right? I have $10,000, it got me this. When I went to 20, it didn't double.
And tracking it is really important, like on my estimate forms, and I've gotten a bit lazy because I've been lazy. When you're first starting, right, you get to know, and on my forms it says source. my question is supposed to be, how did you hear about me? And so it's either a referral from a BNI, it's a referral from a previous client, it's a new customer, they saw my Facebook page, or they liked my blog, or they saw the article about me in the latest Lethbridge Living. Like, those are the things that you use. And I've actually now, this year, I'm incorporating those sources as salespeople in my accounting software. So when I can sell a job and it's from Facebook, then I put Facebook as my sales rep. So then I can actually track where that money is coming from.
While we're talking about marketing, I have a question in relation to it.
Okay.
How do you guys feel about using external marketing experts?
Does it work for you? Then use it.
Yeah.
It's a guess and test. It's a measure, and everything is measurable. I would try, again, my personal opinion is I would try and see what works before you spend money for somebody else to do it, because you don't know, maybe you could do it on your own, and then you're going to save yourself that money. That's just my opinion. Yep. Sorry.
So, you were back in our position a few years ago. We're all working on a business plan. And if you Google good business plan, what constitutes a really good solid business plan versus okey dokey? Like,
Who did the research?
pardon?
Who did their research?
Yeah.
To me, I think that is if I was going to look at someone else's business plan, I still have my original business plan when I look at it. I spent hours and hours and hours researching who my competition may be, where my store was going to go, I figured out how many cars were going to drive by this area till I knew how many people were going to see my store as they drove by. Research everything. I cannot say, I hate it when you see a business pop up and you go, they won't last 6 months. Why? Because I already know there's 6 people who are competing against them. How come they don't know that? So that would be is research, research, research.
And you made a comment when you introduced yourself of learning about brokering and suppliers and stuff like that. Was that mostly internet research you for finding suppliers and?
Well, a lot of it, my husband's a police officer. That helped a lot for us. Talking to your customers. We actually went, before we did our business plan, we went to the police station and said, would you use us as a business if we opened up? Talk to the people who could be your potential customers and ask them, is this a need? If everybody tells you no, you may have to reevaluate. But asking people who are going to spend the money, they're going to be the ones that are most honest with you. Yeah.
I assume all you guys love your business and stuff, but what's your plan? Like, do you guys have an exit strategy, and what's it in your business plan as well?
My business plan now, if I wrote one today, would be black and white what it was 4 years ago. I'll be honest with you, my first business plan, I thought our first year of business we would do 80,000 in sales. We did close to 300,000.
Oh, wow.
You don't know, and it's going to change based on how things go. Right now, I am at a point in my business where it's running on its own. My business is running. I'm not running it's amazing how that turns around on you. Instead of I'm not in my business, I'm working on my business. You'll hear that probably a few times. But now I'm back in school because I didn't take my business administration. Now I want to get my master's in business so I can teach other people how to start their own businesses. So things change. I never thought that was going to be my end goal, but I love talking about it. I love seeing people succeed in their businesses. So that's my plan anyways.
Yeah. I know I have a limited window for the physical labor component of my job. So I have been, a part of my business plan was to develop a role of mine in the business as a consulting arborist. So to reach that end goal, I've taken specialized, so I'm now the only certified tree appraisers in southern Alberta. So if you have an incident with your insurance company or a land developer wants to acquire a portion of your land to expand a road, I can tell you what your trees are worth And so you have some power of a just like an appraiser would tell you what your house is worth, well, I know what your tree is worth, which is really cool. The other thing that I have, which is a limited designation in our area, is I'm an ISA qualified tree risk assessor. So again, we're talking about errors and omissions insurance. I asked extensively the insurance company, and because that's a designation, and it's part of the services of my business, they said they felt it wasn't necessary for me to have separate insurance. But I'm applying my, I can offer expert witness to hazards, incidents that have occurred as a result. Can I explain why, or whether or not I can predict whether a tree will fail or not? And it's what you do with the information that you're provided is really what he says. If you choose to act or not to act, I can't foresee that when I look at your tree and tomorrow there's a 200-kilometer-an-hour an extreme weather event, I can't be held liable for an act of God, basically. But I make decisions and I advise my clients based on that formal training. So my goal is to offer more professional services as opposed to the physical hands-on, but I need to build a support system in the production end of things, and that's the challenge, is to get those systems in place, those people in place, the right people in place. Like you say, you've got the greatest general manager running things, where you have confidence that they're treating the customers. What did he say? That today I was at a session at KPMG, put on a luncheon, and like he says, you have to have your absolute, when you're dealing with employees, you have to have your absolute minimum standards. There's no negotiating things, like how you treat customers, or the processes that you have as far as the flow of paper in your office. Those things have to be clearly defined, or you're never going to have success in having staff. And it was the Dodge dealer, and he said, their salespeople, when they're doing your interviews, it has as much, probably more to do with the personality or the person than it does the skills, because you can teach them how to do the right paperwork process, or you can teach them certain things about the business process, but you can't make them a nicer, happier, smiley, whatever it is, karmic person to fit the blend of all. And they have 70 some odd employees to have everyone try and get along, right? Which you think is pretty tough. But I mean, it's like branding, Coke is everywhere. And when I'm there, people know me, they know my passion for trees, my passion for the environment. My standards are very high when it comes to the care that I provide. I follow the highest standards put out by our industry as far as the methods of pruning that we use and the safety that we approach things. If my employees aren't a mirror they don't have to be me, but they have to be like me, so that the brand that I'm promoting is consistent messaging. So, if I'm hiring somebody who really doesn't care, treats people's, don't do a good cleanup or whatever, that really reflects on the whole business, right? So there's an important selecting of people to support you in the delivery of your services is really critical, I think.
So guys, we're just after 9 o'clock, so we're only going to take a couple more questions because I don't want to keep you guys 40 minutes late. Go ahead.
I'd like to know, when did you decide, from now on I need an insurance, from now on I need help from an accountant, or you got it from the very first day, or was something that you realized that you really needed?
Certain things you need from day one, like insurance.
Yeah.
Number one, day one, do not touch anything. I'm actually taking a business law course right now, and 4 years later I'm going, whoops. Seriously, things, and you'll still learn. Insurance is number one. Everything else you will kind of learn. That's my personal opinion, right?
I'll pay you later.
So following government regulations, so you need a proper business license.
Yeah.
And whatever your industry dictates. Like I know for me, I thought, WCB, if you're an entrepreneur, workers' compensation. I have critical illness, I have accidental death and dismemberment, I have, all kinds of insurance, life, personal, whatever, right? And so, in my opinion, my risk for an injury on the job is better, I have better coverage through my insurance broker than I do through workers' compensation, because if I got injured and under their rules, if I'm an owner, I don't have to have it. But the second I employ a contractor or an employee, I at minimum have to have coverage for them. So if I have a subcontractor and I'm working for a commercial company and I'm the general contractor, I have to have WCB in case they default on theirs, in case whatever. So I have to pay premiums on my subs just in case they don't. And so a lot of companies won't even look at you if you can't provide proof of your minimum insurance, 2 million or whatever it is for your industry, and some form of workers' compensation or personal liability and injury coverage. So those two things for sure, insurance and being legitimate. So getting a business license. I think that just makes you, the
Credible.
Yeah, the credibility that comes with that process, and being a member of your professional association if you can. That opens doors to meeting people, connecting and networking. Like I'm a member of BNI Group, which is a really great use of part of my marketing budget, because I've got, 27 salespeople who are constantly trying to find leads for me through their network of people, and I know people, and then, I'm helping a granny with something. She's talking about, oh, this house is really getting too big. Let's really spruce up the yard, because I'm thinking about putting it up for sale. Bingo, I got a guy I can refer you to that's a really great real estate agent. I can provide him with an opportunity, and vice versa. He's got a client that's trying to sell a house, looks like crap on the outside, no one's gonna stop because it's such a disaster. Maureen, how much to make the street curb appeal up on this house, and it's sold in a week after that. So I mean, these kinds of connections are really important, and being part of your professional association is also really important. So
I can tell you a lot of stuff, and I will tell you, you can do on your own. You have to decide what that is. Obviously, insurance is not something I'm going to take on my own. I do my own accounting, except when it comes to year end. I even broker my own goods from the States. That's something I've learned on my own to do. When I bring an inventory, I have it sent to the States. I broker it myself because it saves me money. Not everybody's going to want to do that. So there are things that you can do on your own, and there's some things that you don't want to do on your own. You kind of have to figure out what the risk is.
How do you broker yourself? Do you get the inventory first?
Take my card. The first time I went down there, I thought all I had to do was hand them my invoice, and they would just charge me. There's a storage facility in Sweetgrass, Montana. You ship it to there. You need to be very responsible and understand what you're allowed to bring across the border. When you're not using a broker that hands on your shoulders, it's a huge insurance risk. As long as you understand what you're bringing across, you can do it yourself. I've taught a couple of other businesses how to do it. I don't mind doing it because last year it saved me over 20 grand in brokerage charges, so it can be done.
All right, I have one final question I want to give you guys before we wrap it up, and I'd love to get your input from each one of you. I'm going to kind of put you on the spot with as short an answer as possible. So, in your mind, what is the most important trait or behavior that a successful entrepreneur should develop?
Credibility. That's my word. I'm actually reading a book right now by Staff Sergeant Kyle Lamb. If anybody knows who he is, he was in Black Hawk Down. He was one of the teams that had to go in and rescue, and he's an amazing leader. And he thinks everybody should have one word for a good leader, and his is credibility, and I believe it. Because if you're not credible, if people don't trust you, that's it. So that's my word.
And it'd be along the same line, being able to say, I don't know that, I'll get that answer.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, honesty. Delivering on your promises is, I think, really what it boils down to. And you have to be, I would be described as tenacious, not willing. You have to be willing to continue to try. You can't just quit. You need that drive. So you need to have that perseverance or tenacious nature that helps you keep moving forward, even when obstacles arise.
All right, thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
All right, guys, so I just have a couple other things that I want to, the brief conclusion, if it's, I see I can't probably get that, but that's okay. So next week, we're going to have another great session, actually. So we're going to be talking about location planning. We have Avison Young coming in, one of their partners that's in town. He's going to come in, talk a lot about how to pick the location for your business. He's going to talk about things that you guys really need to think about. Anyone that's bought a house, I just very recently bought a house. Whoa, man. There's a whole lot of things that you need to consider. And we're also going to be talking products and services with Business Development Bank. So BDC is going to be in as well. If you guys have any questions, you have my email address. Feel free to get a hold of me or give a phone call to the Community Futures office. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.